guys. Thank you very much. So, React Native, not an easy topic on this kind of, crowd, all iOS devs. I'm iOS dev too. I'm gonna try to convince that as well, and convince yourself as well. But yeah, decisions, there was a very good talk before by Diego. We all have to make decision, and those decisions sometimes are a bit more naive, like, should I use this, should I use that? Some other decisions are way more important because maybe, you have a tool in your hands, you have your Objective-C, your experience, there is Swift and all this kind of stuff. But all of a sudden, you have to change something because there is a reason to do so. And, let me try to explain, should I use React Native too? I ended up using it, and maybe I can explain probably why, and if you should too as well. So, a couple of words of introduction for myself. So, my name is Nicola Zaghini, you see that. I'm a senior software engineer. I work at Forest in Ireland. It's a software company. It's a software house. We build software for beauty, for hair and beauty industry. So basically, owner of salons, they get our software to run their business, really. So it could be from the desktop software where you manage your roster to the web page where you book your appointment, and ending up to the mobile application. Clearly, both iOS and Android. It shouldn't surprise you there are many more Android around than iOS around, so that you can manage your experience into the salon. So you can book, change your booking, make payment, transaction with your application. But just a quick question, as a cockpit sort of picture, just to give you my background, because this is probably last year me. Okay, this is just last year me. This is probably 10 years of me. I'm not a pilot, but I worked in this industry. So who of you ever flown with EasyJet, just for example? Very good, and most likely you use their app. Who of you have ever flown with Singapore Airlines? A bit more difficult. Yeah, a couple. Who of you have flown with Etihad Airways? We go South America, LATAM. Yeah, we are European mostly, so not many of us. So if you played with those guys, if you've flown with those guys, you used their application, you used an app, a native iOS app with code written from here, from Bologna. Not exactly Bologna, because, as it was mentioned, I actually live a little bit more on the coast. I live in Rimini, 1 hour from here. You should come down if you have time to see the town. It's very, very nice, the city. And, I was lucky enough to be in a company that could work with those big companies over there. I was the architect over there, so first I was hands-on developing, mostly in the Objective-C time world. And then dictating more or less how they should have been developed, those apps. And it was good, it was very, very good. So maybe you may ask yourself at this stage, why would I, in my own mind, decide to move away from that and embrace or have a look at another kind of technology, another kind of framework? Because I got a challenge, like every day more or less at work. But I was architect over there, and the challenge were kind of big. The challenge was that it was pretty much impossible, unsustainable to manage all those channels, iOS, Android, web, and we were looking at Movie and many, many other channels, chats, and so on, with, pure native development, with a vertical, with a specific team, feature parity, all these kind of problems, double testing, double bugging, triple, whatever you want. So basically, I had this challenge here, the multi-channel challenge, I called it. You can call it whatever you want. I'm quite sure once in your life you had this problem as well. You wanted to try a solution which would, without too many compromises, there's always a compromise in life, so you have to accept, maybe they're too much for you, maybe they're not, could give you a good quality, an easy to maintain code, that could last year, fun to code for, because eventually we're all developers, which could give you some sort of an incremental approach on what you have today, and something that Google is not going to shut down tomorrow, right? Something that is going to last at least, I would say, 5 years. So, in here, we evaluated all those names, the classic names that come into mind when basically you are challenged to provide something that addresses more than one channel, clearly. NativeScript, Xamarin, Flutter, React Native. The decision was to take React Native. I don't have time here to explain why, but I'm more than happy to explain, why into a separate after the talk. But now, let's just for a second Go back to the future and see what happened a couple of years after, all right? So those are the apps that we build. You know, the airline industry, I left over there. I don't know what they do. They do React Native. I don't know what they do, but I moved into another company, the one that I told you a second ago. This is the app that we build, our white labeled application. So it means, you know, I guess you know exactly what it means, but basically it's the same code base, single source of truth, but they become different based on the customer that is using them. There are plenty of features over there. I just have this because it's marketing material, the one that I got out of my designers. So basically, you can make your booking, see your past appointments, special offer. You have a very nice calendar. If you play with it, I can show you. It's very animated, bouncing, and so on. I didn't write it. I couldn't. You know, it's too difficult to write. I just found it. I put it there. Works amazingly well. Just customize it a little bit. Takes payment, credit card. And all the kind of things that a normal application that make transaction very similar to an airline app. You know, you don't have seats there, you have a lot of times. You know, should do. Nothing too fancy, good looking, all right? So what is this, what we're talking about? This is a React Native app, a pure React Native app. It lets you, as I said, book and manage appointment mostly. It's a white label and templated app. The good bit to me is that it took 6 months, 2 engineers, myself, which I consider senior at the moment, and you know, and a just graduate guy. You know, I'm also remote, so I live here. The guy lives in Dublin, so we had this kind of a difficult setup here on a very, very small team. This is only the engineering part. Clearly, we have product owner, designer, UX. You know, everything that is needed to run a real business. Clearly, and you know, talking about React Native, which, you know, comes from React, and React has this philosophy of, you know, very similar to Swift UI actually, because it's learn once and write everywhere. Actually, I haven't seen it yet, the write everywhere, because in reality, we, given this is iOS and Android clearly, we share 98% of the code between the two platforms. I didn't check the number. I have no idea if it's 98%. The point is that I probably wrote 5 if is Android, if is iOS, like if is Mac OS or if is the iOS platform, UIKit, whatever. I probably wrote this thing 5 times. So more or less, that number is not even enough. You know, could be 98% share. So what do we have in there then? How many apps do we have? We have 4,000 apps. 4,000 apps in the store. So you can guess that it's way more difficult to distribute 4,000 apps than make this app. In React Native, Objective-C, whatever you want. That's probably the real deal. And I'll show you in a second why React Native comes in this special example, you know, as a kind of lifesaver, if you like. We, you know, in terms of business, you know, it make money move. 12,000 daily active users with 2,000 appointments booked daily with money transaction in it. So I just wanted to show you this, not because you have to go to my salon in Montreal, Zaghini Hair and Beauty, but because, you know, it's not a game. You know, it's an app that is making money for people that live on the back of this app, right? All the salons that use this application. So a quick introduction on how React Native works, you know, because you can't live here without knowing that. So to me, this picture tells 1,000 words. If you know React Native, this picture is React Native in its essence. So what do we have on the screen? On the screen, you have puppets, and you don't have a puppeteer. You don't see the puppeteer, right? So puppets are your UI kit. So when I build a React Native application, I touch a UI button, a UI scroll view. I touch the real thing. As a user, I see puppets moving. You don't see the puppeteer. The puppeteer is inside, is nested. You know, it's the React bit, which drives the real thing. So that's why if I hand you my app, you're not able to tell if it's React or if it's React Native or if it's native, because I'm not, and I know how an iOS application will look like. All right. If this picture doesn't tell 1,000 words, this picture is obvious. All right. A dog in a box screams React Native, but since it's a technical conference, I actually have this, and I have the pen. So what is, in essence, a React Native application? It's a normal application, as you know. So basically, all the shell here, it's purely native. We are talking about EPA file, okay? Nothing magical. If you are on Android, it's an APK, but that's the same. Most of it, so this bit here is all native code, see? Plus the React Native SDK, plus any other SDK that you happen to need in your application, all right? Then, down there, I used red, there is the engine where the React lives. It lives in its own custom thread, you know, runs in there, and through this magical thing here called bridge, it basically makes the communication between the two worlds. The bridge is a great bottleneck that serializes all your commands and put them asynchronously up and down between the two worlds. It's the reason why React Native is a bit bad. The bridge is the real problem in here. It's the whole thing, but it's also the problem. The very good bit is that we were discussing just a second ago, is that React Native community, Facebook and on, they have released a roadmap on 2020 to recognize all the issues that Airbnb and all the friends have seen and reported, which I've seen already as well. Probably in 2019, those issues were mostly, or many of them, somehow resolved. I totally believe who in 2015 were dramatically, you know, in very, very bad situations. But, you know, this thing is going to disappear on 2020, so React Native is going to be even more easy to use and have less bottlenecks, because this is probably the big one. But, you know, just to go back to ourselves, we have an engine there, right? So I just have to say done. We have an engine. What engine is that? So I spoke with the conference organizer. They say, you know, there's a code of conduct. They said it's completely safe for work to say this word in this conference. It's a JavaScript engine. Okay, it's JavaScript. What is the beauty though? That if they told me, look, to go React Native, you have to go JavaScript, I would have told them, no, never, I will never do that. But the beauty is that that's not the case, because if the animation works, because there is TypeScript. So your React Native application, you can write it, or at least I 100% you know, suggest you to write it in TypeScript. It looks very, very good in fairness. It looks like Kotlin mostly. And you know, you get back everything that you're used to have, more or less, probably not 100%, but still you get back your types and everything is checked, so it's easy enough. More than easy, it's comfortable enough, if you know what I mean. Another good bit is that the new version of React Native will be TypeScript from the ground up. This to me, it's something that tells me, you know, things are going to get better, most likely. Finger crossed. So now let's have a look. In my experience, this is a light talk. I have to, you know, I'll give you as much information as possible in a light fashion. What went well? So one thing that shocked me, because it was a bet for me, right? I spent 10 years writing, you know, iOS apps, and you know, I jumped to this thing. I kind of put all my effort, all my reputation of, you know, this thing to me is going to work. To me, it's a good thing. We should do it. You know, decisions. We realized at the end of it that we were blazing fast during the development. And not just me. It was the product owner. It was the designer, the UX guy. You all used to do iOS apps or Android apps. And they're like, how the hell can you go that fast? I don't know, honestly. But probably everything has to do with this kind of thing. First of all is React. React, to me, is a very, very intelligent, smart framework. It's a library in theory, but just for us to understand. Let's call it way to design graphical user interface. It's really, really tailored for that. It doesn't give you anything more than this, but that is done extremely well. I just put an asterisk beside React, because talking with some of you guys this morning, there is always this kind of a React and reactive. Those are two things that are completely different. The reactive world with signals, you know, and this kind of stuff is something. React is a completely different thing. Call it whatever you want, but it's not the same thing. There are no signals. There is nothing like that. Okay, so if you're curious just after the talk, just go and see what is React, which is not reactive programming. Hot reloading, you know, how can we be so fast? React to me is the reason, biggest reason. Hot reloading, you know, compiling is fast. You know, we have a very, you know, optimized thing. We have very big computers. But if you don't have to compile, it's even faster. If your emulator is always there, and basically you have built the box that I drew before, right? Once that blue box is built once, you don't have to change it ever, because what changes is the engine inside, right? So if I can just save, and the engine inside reparses and goes up and gives you a new app, you're faster. 6 months, you know, the times builds up. It builds up. Does it work? Almost. It doesn't always work. But even the part that it works, it's kind of great, I can tell you. Testing. Testing is something that, you know, you can't live without testing. And there are 3 dimensions on React Native testing, which to me, you know, there is one more than native. First of all, end-to-end testing is dramatically simple. We had a QA team setting up Detox, which is the engine that, by Wix guys, fully open source, that basically can run your end-to-end tests, and it works. It's very reliable. I was kind of shocked with that. Unit testing, and another magic thing, which is called snapshot testing, it's provided to you by the web world with a library called Jest. And you know, the unit are the unit. The snapshot is a magical thing, which if I have 5 minutes at the end of a presentation, I'm definitely gonna explain. Otherwise, you know, you can stop me around. The IDE integration. One thing I was dramatically scared at the beginning was the IDE. If I give away Xcode, the lightness of Xcode, the beauty of the project file, if I give that away, will I be able to debug again, to put breakpoint again? Will I be able to have code completion? Yes, apparently it works. Everything works. Microsoft builds a beautiful IDE, which is called VS Code. That's my preference, but you know, there are plenty. The guys outside have WebStorm. And everything seems to be fine. You know, I can break point, I can do whatever I want, and it's actually super light. I can open 3, 4 projects all in parallel without big deals. That gives you speed, you know, because you don't have to choose, you don't have to close, you don't have to wait for memory to come back. That gives you speed, I think. Community, there is a beautiful community, so if you have a problem and you don't know how to solve it, 99% of the time Stack Overflow is there to help you, as usual. And you know, if that didn't exist, that would have been a problem, but it does, so it's good. So, what is the speed overall? I can tell you, and you know, it's hard, I believe, to contradict, that it was twice as fast as it used to deliver. And you can tell me, all right, React is fast, but twice as fast, or even more? Just don't forget one thing, which I always forget. When I build React Native, and I'm an iOS guy, so I always have my iOS simulator, the iOS phone attached, iOS screenshot. Oh, wait, it works on Android. I've built a feature for Android too. And this is, you know, this is my workflow. Anybody works like he wants. I develop for, you know, within the iOS emulator. Then I open up the Android one, which kills all my memory. I looked at everything works fine. If it doesn't, if it's the moment that doesn't, I just put an if over there and that's it. But it rarely happens. So that's why I'm twice as fast, because in the same time I've delivered one channel, I actually delivered 2. And overall, you know, it's already there on the screen. This is the kind of app which is kind of normal app. You know, you make transactions and so on. You show the user what they have. I can't tell you that I got compromises on the overall speed and quality, in fairness. But there is one more thing. And this thing, you know, there's always the killer feature, the game changer. At least in my business, this is the game changer, because without this feature, we would have closed the app. You know, the 4,000 apps, the company was about to say, I give up on the 4,000 apps, and you know, I just don't do apps. Many competitors don't, because they can't handle 4,000 apps in the store. Question for you. You have 4,000 apps in the store. What keeps you up at night? No, you don't care? Yeah. What? What, sorry? Yeah. Or, even worse. So say that what had happened to me, it turns out that the smart guys on the server side recycles the IDs for different kind of things, and you have to, in the GUI, make sure if you sell a package or if you sell not a package but something else, you know, the ID can be identical, so there is a clash. And basically you have just delivered 4,000 apps, and now you have to release a fix because they cannot book it, okay? It takes 10 days to deliver 2,000 iOS apps, plus review time, plus that kind of money. In Circle CI, at least in Circle CI we have. And you know, it's really, really smart. And when I say deliver, screenshots, everything, all right? It takes 1 day to deliver the 2,000 Android apps. So it's kind of clear that it's hard to put together a business like that. You know, it's difficult to manage something like that, that every time you have a problem, you have to do something like that. So thank God with React Native, with the architecture which I explained you before, I can update with this picture. clear enough, but I have a couple of words. It's called Overtheair update. Microsoft invented it for the React Native platform, and it's called code push. You know, I show you the yellow bit within, the JavaScript engine. So your app, the Puppeteer, you can change it. You can really change it and basically submit to all your app in the store in a second. To me, this is a real key differentiator. Even if you don't have 4,000 apps, the luxury of updating your apps like is almost a web page without introducing crazy features which Apple would not allow clearly, but that is a lot of value. Now, let's go to the dark side, the upside down. So what went hell? Because clearly, there are a lot of benefits to it, but there were also problems. There were definitely unexpected slowdowns in terms of development time. Navigation, one thing that you get out of the box that you never think is a problem for me, navigation. It's one of the biggest pain that I've been through with React Native, probably because you have to reconcile two worlds which they don't want to stay together, but eventually they stay. And it gets a little bit of training to understand how navigation works. The documentation there is improving, but it's not amazing. You need just to be aware that navigation can be a pain for you for a while. React Native upgrades, that I think everybody knows that. It's kind of hard to move from a React Native version to another. It takes usually a morning, You do it every 2 months. I don't think, it's really a balance. You have to choose yourself. The custom SDKs, if our SDKs doesn't exist, you really have to bridge it using the magic bridge. In fairness, that's just code. I don't see that to be a problem. It's just a time consumer kind of thing. Crashes sometimes are not the most clear thing in the world. It feels like to live into a UI web view where sometimes internally crashes. To me, I have to tell you, I didn't fall in love with React Native itself, which I felt was not exactly robust as a first adjective for React Native. Robust, I wouldn't say so. But for React, the power of having React in my application development, that to me was the real thing that told me I can really, really go there. Performances, so I have to mention performances because you are basically a layer of abstraction on top of the bare metal. So there is no chance that they perform the same. But if you ask me on my application, if I feel like there is no downs, there is not. Maybe if we check frame per second, we drop a couple. I have no idea. As long as when I pick up my app, it feels perfect, it feels a native app, both iOS and Android, I have to ask the Android guys to tell me because I'm not an Android user. That's fine to me, Documentation, probably documentation could be better. As I said, the community is there, so Stack Overflow has plenty of information. The documentation itself sometimes can be tough. You have to listen to talks. I started that by looking at talks and other people. 2 slides, almost there. Because I just wanted to tell you how do I believe you can make it if you think it's something you want to try. First of all, get a passionate team on. And I have a nice story here. So I was assigned to spike React Native with an R&D project within the company. So they gave me a few guys, one iOS, one Android, and one web. We were spiking also the reusability of the same source code in the web. The iOS was very enthusiastic, the web as well. The Android, not so much. So the Android was always like, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think this is going to work. One day, she calls me. She's like, Nick, this thing doesn't work. I don't believe it's a good idea. It simply doesn't work. And I tell her, look, it's fine. If you tell me, you are the Android expert here. If you tell me this thing is not suitable for Android, I just quit the thing because I'm not here because I'm not happy with Objective-C or Swift. I'm not happy with the fact that I have to have different teams, different apps, different QAs, different bugs, and all this kind of stuff. So either it works or not. If you tell me it's over, I'll trigger the button. It's over. We search for something else. Well, no. Just give me 2 days. The pressure of the decision. The decision was not on me anymore. I decided to go into React Native, and I needed expertise. Decision was on her. She came back. Oh, I fixed that. Blah blah blah. End of the story. She finished all the R&D. She was probably the one that couldn't bear to go back to what she was doing before. How much, But at the beginning, you need to find someone in your team that is really, really willing to try, because it's different. You need to have seniors with previous mobile experience. I totally believe that, because with React Native, you're a bit on your own. React just tells you how to put things on a graphical user interface. And for that, it's great. After that, network, storage, internationalization, everything that is needed to build, a professional application, you are on your own. I probably spent a month and a half to prepare my project before we started coding on it, with my experience of what a native application needs to be successful, So this to me is really, really important. You have to have a good React understanding. You can't go there pretending you don't know React. You just read 2 tutorials and you say, oh, they say that with React it goes Redux. Yeah, just use Redux. What is Redux? I don't know. They say that's the worst way of screwing it up. I've seen a lot of people that they say, oh, but React and Redux is too difficult. Yes, because Redux is yet another thing, it's yet his own complexity and his own application side of things, right? Typescript, guys, don't go there without a type system, without a language that makes sense. And previous iOS and Android knowledge, that would be also very handy. Having my strong iOS knowledge, it was easy enough for me, to learn that little bit of Android to keep me going, if you like. So, how to screw it? The very final slide. If the team is not sold, if the shallow React knowledge, if you go direct with JavaScript, if you treat it like, oh, we have a couple of juniors, let's give it to them, let's see what they do, and maybe it's good. I find it very hard to believe this is going to work. And if you don't have any iOS or Android experience, there is a star over there, because there is a library which is called Expo, was made by web devs which approach React Native, that basically skips all the Xcode and all the Android Studio bit, so you can just deliver. And clearly, you have more and more boundaries, but maybe if you're happy with that, it's a good start. So, should I use React Native too? I have no idea. It depends on your situation. On my situation, I was lucky enough that the project was a great success. Actually, just want to leave you with a word of someone that doesn't care about technology by any means. He doesn't really understand technology. The CEO of my company. I just got this in an email, not directly to me, directly to the company. I said, can I quote? Because once your CEO tells you, all in all, this is the most impressive thing the company has ever done, to me it means that also the technology underlying was up to the task, probably was the right technology, because on the other technology we wouldn't be able to deliver. And so, at least on my side of things, I should do React Native, and we will do more, actually. Thank you. This is my Twitter, and I come from Italy here. Thank you, guys.